Lee Keegan was doing the rounds yesterday. He was on one of the nice corporate gigs and was talking about drinks bans. Probably the most interesting comments, the ones that are on all the back pages. I mentioned them there. So he says, you sit in the pub even having a my waddy and the heads are staring over at you. Why is he in here? If you can't have a normal life like that, what's the point of it? I think it's just a culture within GAA. I always look to professional sports, and particularly rugby. They have their few beers after their game and they train 2 days later and perform at the highest level the week after. That's the way the GAA should look at it as well. It's part and parcel of life. If you can't enjoy life with a bit of success, or even if you lose, have a few beers with your mates, that's part of sport. There has to be a balance. If you're always locked into GAA, what is there out there for yourself? Does that sound pretty familiar?
Yeah, I think we mentioned it on Shot Clock about 3 weeks ago that, you know, it is a culture thing, and it is slightly changing, as in the kind of, we'll go have to drink for 3 months so we can win this championship or win this. I think that's kind of gone, because the amount of effort GAA players are putting into training every day, whether it's a gym or a field session or whatever, or a recovery day where you have to go stretch and foam roll and get into the pool or go to the beach or whatever. So it's every day for a GAA player. So if they can't, you know, go for a meal and have a glass of wine, or, you know, or have their few beers after a game, yeah, I agree with Lee on all those points, because for me, when I was getting to the end of my career, I started kind of enjoying the journey of the career, as in enjoying all the small things. And you know, I think them few pints with your teammates after any game should be something that you kind of enjoy and go together with, and everybody be on the same boat. And the culture has gone. Like, these young guys aren't like we were when we came in 2006. I was coming in learning off Darragh O'Shea, the boys, and if you won a Munster final, they mightn't see you till Wednesday. You were just getting in and out of bars. Whereas now, these young players and these young athletes that are playing GAA at the highest level, these guys go out and have their, you know, even all the young guys in the Kerry team. Like, I remember looking over last year with Darren O'Sullivan, kind of looking at him like, and you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning and all these young guys are kind of sober and they're talking away and they're nice and calm, and I was kind of going, Jesus, when we were 18, 19 or 20 or 23 or whatever we were when we broke in, if we were getting a few pints after a game, we'd be probably on the floor at this stage, because we saw it so rarely that it was kind of like a case of it was a real culture of go on the beer for 3 days, then go off it for 2 months, on the beer for 3 days, off it for 2 months. It's not healthy. You know, I think the balance, certainly the rugby players, and I would see the soccer players too. Was it Wes Hoolan, when he got that goal in the European Championships, they were having their bottle of Heineken afterwards in the dressing room. You know, the Aussie rules guys finish a game, they come into the dressing room, there's 25 boxes of pizzas there, there's a few crates of beer, and they sit there and relax as a team and have a bit of time together to, you know, talk about what went well or talk about what they need to improve on for next week. But they're getting their bit of carbs in with the food and they're having their few beers. They're not playing again until next week. It's not going to...
Almost that moment that you often talk about after winning an All-Ireland final, where you lock the door of the dressing room and it's just the 30, 40 players, backroom staff, together as one.
Yeah. That's the precious time.
You're not out till 4 a.m. You're actually, the benefits far outweigh whatever negatives there is of having
100%.
2 bottles of beer.
And we definitely don't get enough of that quality time. Even when we're out, we haven't been out in 6 weeks, so now we're out. We're kind of at the bar. You're just you're just drinking. You're just
make the most of it.
Make the most of it, absolutely. And that's the wrong way to look at it. It should be about nice and relaxed. Go for a nice few quiet pints with your teammates, but it isn't. It's right. It's 10 o'clock. We're after getting back. I'm going straight on to Jameson, because sure, I'm going to be drinking till 2 o'clock in the morning. I won't get on it if I keep on pints. So it's a real like playing every week. What, you know, if you win in a Saturday, a big game with sport, what were you doing afterwards?
When I first came into the squad with Tottenham when I was like 18, 19, there was a drinking culture in it, and it was more, so as soon as the game finished, with me being the youngest player, I was sent to the, like, whether it was a away game, to the players' lounge to come back onto the coach with a load of beers, and the senior players would be drinking, like Les Faird, Teddy Sheringham, and I'll be down the back coach, Jamie Redknapp, having a few beers on the coach on the way back to the training ground. And that's the way it was, and that's just obviously been completely changed since I was never much of a big drinker, and that was just my preference, I never got into it. But the culture was there, but then as it's gone on, that's just completely gone out of it, and it's only the old school managers that you see that would happen. Like, the only real time when with Steve Bruce, we had an occasion we got promoted, and we came in training next morning, and the fitness coach came in with a Lucozade box and he wheeled in, and Steve closed the change room doors, like you said, and he's like, okay lads, and we're all saying, he's like, right, you ready for training? And he opened up and it was just full of beers.
Lovely.
And that was, we just been promoted, and I think the same day the Sky cameras were up on Sunderland, had been promoted as well, and they were out running around the pitch, and Roy Keane was the manager, and Bruce was like, look at these guys, and we're all sitting in the chair. So it was like, it was a bit of banter, and it was, I always remember it just as being a really good time for it. And it wasn't like the lads were in the change room, it was just wanted us all together as a team to celebrate what our achievement was.
It was an experience, like you remember clearly now.
So clearly, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that because you're in with your teammates and it's nice and calm, but you don't remember the nights out afterwards where it's manic. Exactly, you know what I mean? So it's finding little times, I think, for GA squads to relax on the whole thing. And you know, like a lot of these guys now don't even drink. Yeah. So if you don't drink, great. Like it's better again if you don't drink, if you can go out and enjoy yourself without it. But if you are to have a few drinks, I think having it nice in moderation with your teammates in a relaxed setting, take them away to a hotel after a game, let them have their 6 or 7 beers together, and then say, okay lads, look, you can go into town, whatever. But I think if I had a team, it'd be about getting the boys together and making sure they are together so they can get talking to each other, have the few pints, iron out things if things need to be ironed out, or just have banter, and then go into the mania of a Castle Bar or a Killarney or wherever it is after your big game. But I think just going straight into town, I just think fellas branch off and fellas are being pulled and dragged everywhere.
You want to keep the team together as much as you can, because it's that close to you. And like I said, it's the times with your team that you'll remember. I said, because I wasn't much of a drinker, but it was those times when we were all together. The teams, they're the times you remember the most. Like, so that was the.
Well, it keeps it going as well. Then for the next week, 2 weeks of training, the things you were chatting about after a few drinks that night, the bit of crack you had.
Absolutely, like that. If you win a Munster final or a Connacht final, and you come into the pitch on a summer's day on a Tuesday, and fellas have been out. In them days, fellas were out the Saturday, or they were out the Sunday after the game, they were out the Monday, and Tuesday you were back into work and you were back out to training, and we'd all be sitting out there in the middle of the field, like, you know, and it'd always be seen as a kind of it wasn't going to be ever a real hard session the Tuesday after a Munster final because bodies are sore or whatever. So fellas would be just sitting down, and all the crack would be, anything anybody would be talking about would be the crack Sunday and Monday. Where do we go on Monday for the crack? And so it'd be real, you know, there'd be just banter there, but fellas are talking, fellas are laughing, there's a good relaxed vibe. You get your bit of a session done, you get into your ice baths afterwards, and then Thursday you come back ready to go. But yeah, it's important, and I agree with Lee that it is. If you can't sit there and have a wine or a glass of wine or a pint and someone's looking over at you, kind of questioning you, judging you, you know, that's where it goes too far. As you like, we're not being paid, so why are you judging me? And you know, I'm out here doing this because I want to represent my county, I want to represent my club, my family. But if I'm going to have a pint, you know, I need to be left have a pint without you staring at me, if you don't mind. No, I'd never go down that road talking to anybody. To be honest, I was always good enough to find a dark corner where nobody could see me.
Well, I was going to ask, and we'll save it for another day, I think, where you were back in, was it 2009, when Gooch and Tomás O'Shea were busted?
Yeah, I was out in the training ground, dedicated to the core.
I can only imagine. Go on, where were you?
No, I was training. There was one or two fellas went at that time, and there was one or two fellas that got away with it as well. But Tomás and Gooch were brave enough to put up their hand and say where they were. But again, that's, you know, that was very tough on them at the time. But maybe if we were where we are now, and that game against Sligo where we were poor, played bad, literally a huge amount of pressure on us to win that game. Dermot Murphy makes the big save. We go on and win it. Maybe that was a time where, you know, a manager would look at it and go, these fellas need a bit of chill out time. Yeah, we're playing again next week, but let's go for a meal. Let's give them out. Let's throw a few bottles of wine up on the table. Let fellas have a few drinks. Everyone back to the hotel together, because that's the danger, and that's where the trust, and that's where people struggle, is because fellas will take the piss, literally. They'll go at it. Everybody home at 11 o'clock.
Red flag to a bull, isn't it? Some lads just can't take off and they can't handle it.
And I think that's the you know, if it's really strict and you can't do it ever, and then you get the green light, all bets are off. It's carnage.
You think that obviously in football it's changed dramatically, but the physicalities of the game, the speed of the game is all, like, since I started, has changed so much. I'm sure you've noticed it now as well. So and everybody's athletes, they've all improved. Like everything has come on. Like
looking after yourself and all the stuff away from it. I don't think the few points are going.
Yeah, it's not gonna help.
Yeah.